Welcome to Let's Face the Facts, the rewatch podcast for the classic sitcom, The Facts of Life. Join us each week as we synopsize, analyze, criticize, and ultimately idolize the show. And now, here's your host of Let's Face the Facts, the wonderful David Almeida.
Thank you, Matthew Arter. Welcome back. It's another week, another show. Thank you for downloading and pressing play. I am already on the Zoom call with Matthew. Hi, Matthew.
Present.
You brought me a present? What is it? What'd you buy me?
I brought you the gift of another awful season 8 episode.
I am so glad to hear you say that before I am the one who inevitably says that. This is another stinker, people, but I guess we're kind of going to get right to it, huh? Season 8, episode 19, Boy About the House, which had an original air date of February 28th, 1987. Title, probably a play on Man About the House, which is an English phrase and was the name of the TV show that was the inspiration for Three's Company. And they also titled the pilot of Three's Company, Man About the House. And it was literally word for word the same show. Like when you see, adapted for American television, it's like they moved a comma. The fuck is that? But speaking of writing, this episode was written by Austin Kalish and Irma Kalish.
Had these two people ever seen an episode of The Facts of Life before?
They've seen an episode of The Facts of Life. In fact, she is an executive producer. 46 episodes in her IMDb. She joined at the beginning of this season and will be with the show through the end of the series. She previously had produced and written for Good Times, Too Close for Comfort, Oh, Madeline. In the future, she'd go on to 227 and Valerie. And remember, she has written for this before. She is the one who wrote the 2-part episode Maud's Dilemma in 1972, the abortion show, the big controversial Maud thing. That was her who wrote it. She has more producing credits than writing credits versus her husband, who has more writing than producing credits. This is his first of 4 episodes on the show, including the last 2, the attempt to spin off Blair as the new president of Eastland co-ed school that really didn't take off. I wonder why.
I just wonder, how do you walk into an episode and be like, you know what? Nobody said, wait, Andy's lived in the foster. Okay. But anyway,
Nope.
Sorry, getting ahead of myself. As the writers, I just wonder, like, nobody gave any pushback or nobody, okay.
I couldn't agree more, because we have a major retcon about to happen regarding the character of Andy Moffat. But just wrapping up Austin and Irma. Irma is credited with the same 4 episodes that she co-wrote with husband Austin, but she also was one of the 4 writers who wrote Where's Papa?, the recent episode with Blair and her dad. Remember that had 4 writers? We were like, okay, wow. And the episode was directed by John Boab. We've heard of him. Yeah. Are we ready for the synopsis, Matthew?
Yes.
Okay. Andy is caught stealing money from over our heads. We learn that his foster parents are splitting up, and therefore he will be sent back to the home, and instead he is planning to run away, hence the stealing of the money.
We learn that he has foster parents.
I know.
Sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's fine. As the girls contemplate his future, Beverly Ann realizes she wants to adopt him. She applies, and he starts acting bratty. Tootie calls him out on it, at which time he reveals he's been almost adopted several times in the past, and something always prevented him from finding a permanent home, so he's basically self-sabotaging to avoid being hurt again. But no, nay, nay, dear listeners, this is not the only story. We have a B plot this week. One of the few, one of the rare, and one of the terrible. Blair is also, I put dating a new guy. They're not dating. Blair has a new friend. This friend happens to be a ventriloquist. And in the act of befriending him, Blair is hoping to appear with him the next time he is playing Langley. Blair commissions her own ventriloquist dummy named JoJo, who is the spitting image of Joe, and Blair agrees to dispense with JoJo if actual Joe changes her mind and runs a more flattering photo of Blair in their college yearbook. At the end of the episode, a social worker comes to interview Beverly Ann, and even though she is at first skeptical, she is soon won over and says she will happily be recommending that the adoption be approved.
David, you will never write for TV Guide. Oh,
what?
My God.
This isn't a TV guide. This is a long form synopsis.
Oh, God. Emphasis on long form.
I told you that before we started recording. How dare you?
For the love. Okay.
But now I am free. I don't have to stick with the word for word, line by line. Now we can just go into freestyle, free form, letting it all hang out. So my first note, this is one of the worst episodes, not just for the awful retcon stuff, but also for the fact that it is just not funny. Did you laugh once? Did you even smile or smirk at anything in this episode?
The only thing remotely cute was the Joe doll that Blair pulls out, but it's such a fucked up B plot, like a ventriloquist. Like I want to talk to the writer and be like, nobody said, like, what the fuck? Oh, you were writing this?
I think they were thinking that, well, Beverly Ann adopting Andy, this is a pretty dramatic storyline. We're going to need something to counterbalance and really bring the comedy to balance it out. So are you all thinking what I'm thinking? And everyone looked around the room and went, ventriloquist, done, boom.
There's nothing worse than a ventriloquist. It just, they're just.
You're not a fan of Jeff Dunham,
no,
the wonderful.
No.
Well,
I'm not I'm a fan of Lamb Chop, obviously, but but
that's not even ventriloquism. Does Sherry Lewis not move her lips?
No, she doesn't.
Okay.
She's not fucking Charlie McCarthy, for Christ's sake.
I guess she does.
Ventriloquist on the radio.
Mm-hmm.
How he pulled that shit off.
I know, it's so true.
He was a terrible ventriloquist. When TV came along, it was like, wait, he's full on moving his lip. Okay, whatever.
Yeah. But Dana Gould has a joke where he says, words you've never heard any human say ever. Well, now that I've got my shit together, I'm going to start working on becoming a professional ventriloquist.
And I have several notes. Natalie in Battleship Gray, for God's sake. Let's put her in a more flattering color. And Joe is the editor-in-chief of the yearbook. What?
The college yearbook?
How are you going to find time when you are the overnight DJ, Joe, of the radio station? And when have you ever expressed interest in being anything that had to do with the yearbook? Like, nobody around the table was like, what?
In college, I did look it up because I'm like, do colleges have yearbooks? What is that? I looked it up and they kind of do, but it's not really done much anymore. Because, the student body of a college is so much more amorphous. It's so much more, you're kind of more of adults and you're friends with people of different years. You're not in these insular classes with just people your own grade, your own age. So, yeah, college yearbooks really aren't a thing. And they are without question in this episode treating it as though it is like a high school yearbook.
Well, and that's my question. And we didn't have this in my yearbooks in high school, but is it a TV trope like, or is it a real life thing where they actually put in a yearbook best personality, best most congenial? What is that really a thing? Like, first of all, fuck off. Like, who's deciding who has the best personality? Suck my dick. And second of all, like, how awful. Just like, no, what? I'm sorry. I hated high school. So just the
Yeah.
idea of like adding that on top of it, looking through my yearbook and finding a picture of some asshole that says most likely to succeed. Suck my dick. Most likely to succeed.
But it is a thing, yes, and it's just one further thing to put a greater divide between the popular kids and the nerds. And I don't doubt for 1 minute that it was like, didn't we learn who is the celebrity? There's like some celebrity where his high school yearbook said most like Bowen Yang on Saturday Night Live. Literally in his high school thing, he was voted most likely to work on Saturday Night Live. I'm pretty sure, because he was that wacky in high school.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure. So yeah, superlatives in the yearbook are definitely a thing. Where I know they are 100% not a thing. College. Stop it.
Mm.
You want to talk about our ventriloquist? Our special guest star?
We can, as soon as we mention that he pulls out a ventriloquist doll, and Tootie has to say, for some reason, the writers felt the need to have Tootie say, "Oh, you're a ventriloquist."
Yeah. Yep. It is very well known and famous ventriloquist Jay Johnson with his partner Bob.
You named your fucking doll Bob. This is my doll, Bob. Wacky. Oh, God.
Who, of course, rose to fame on the TV show Soap in the 70s. And the funny thing is, on the TV show, he was also Bob. Jay Johnson played the role of Chuck Campbell, son of Richard Mulligan, son of Burt Campbell. I'm obsessed with Soap, you know. And you've heard me say before, Bob was the same voice, the same comedic device that Estelle Getty was on The Golden Girls. He was the character you could conveniently let say anything, be completely irreverent and off the wall, and get away with it because he's a ventriloquist dummy. Just same way Estelle is, she's a little pruny old lady. She can say anything. How wacky.
But Chuck is saying those lines. But Jay it's a doll, for Christ's sake.
Well, I will tell you what one of the reasons why this does not work here and why it did work on Soap. Soap was brilliant because everybody on that show was crazy. Everybody. Probably the least crazy would be Catherine Damon's character, but everyone else was crazy, and they all accepted each other's crazy. He worked because he was like one of the family. He was just like a little bratty brother. And that's what is missing here, where it's like, so Blair, you just let this guy come into the house, huh? So the one good connection is that we know Blair is a ventriloquist. We know it's a party trick that she has pulled out of her ass. That was season 5, episode 18. That was 3 years ago in the episode Big Fish, Little Fish, where she was worried Joe was becoming more popular than she. So we know she has a history of ventriloquism. We know Lisa Whelchel used to do that as part of her act when she was a kid to get noticed. And but Blair has never, ever, 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 ever implied that she had any desire to perform with this. That would necessitate her befriending this dude. And Blair, Blair's not that kind. Blair's not a performance artist. Blair is a graphic artist, or at least she was until they abandoned that also about 3 years ago. We do have to at least give props to, I have these notes saying show Bible good, show Bible bad. show Bible good, show Bible bad. The fact that at least we have seen Blair be a ventriloquist in the past, I have to give that a show Bible good. Everything else about that is terrible, but yeah.
That's one good show Bible thing.
Now, you talked about that Joe was on the, did you already say something about Joe with the radio station?
Yeah, like is she, like how is she going to have time
Yeah.
to be on the radio all night, because she's the third shift radio person.
Mm-hmm.
But okay.
Yeah.
Again, nobody at the table read like Joe as and I guess maybe as the actor, that's not your job. You show up and you read the lines and you go the fuck home. But I just feel like somebody should have been like, wouldn't this be a Natalie thing? Like, I mean, wasn't she on the? Okay.
Yeah, Natalie was at least the journalist who wants to be a writer, which is not quite the same as a yearbook editor per se. Honestly, that would have been more of a Blair thing. That would have played into her graphic thing, into her drawing and painting.
And the whole point is that Joe is going to use a terrible picture of Blair. Don't you choose what picture goes into your yearbook? Like I chose what picture went into my yearbook.
Yeah, there's always the candid pictures in every yearbook. Those are always there, but it's like, Blair, that's one picture of probably multiples if you are allegedly as popular as you are presented to be. So no, you're not wrong. There is this whole yearbook thing is awful. And the one show Bible good thing I have to acknowledge is when the girls come down and say to Beverly Ann, we want to adopt Andy.
Oh, shoot me in the face.
That awful moment. At the very least, Natalie says, when I'm at Senor Sombreros, Tootie will look after him. When Tootie is at school, Joe will look after him. When Joe is at the radio station, Blair will look after him. And when Blair does whatever Blair does, then I'll look after him. At the very least, we're acknowledging Senor Sombreros, that Tootie does go to school, that any of them go to school and have any other commitments other than sitting around the fucking living room. What did they shut the store down? They found Andy stealing. The next scene, they're all in the living room. Did they close the store?
Well, they walked in to have a conversation in the middle of an empty store. So when Andy decided he wanted candy, that's when they went into an empty store in the middle of the day. So, okay.
You're right. No, you're right. So,
speaking of Andy stealing while everyone's in the room.
Yeah.
Just what? Like they all turned around and he's like standing there literally with his hand in the till, for God's sake. It's like, okay, all right. I mean, I've never stolen in my life, but I would know not to do it while 8 people are standing in the room staring at me.
It's true. No, you're right. It's that thing of if it's not on camera, it doesn't exist. So because we couldn't see it. And and the only time the two storylines connect is the ventriloquist dummy that says, so the kid's got his hand in the cookie jar. It's like, okay. So next week, by the way, I did watch ahead for next week. I do have written down for this week's show, what are their majors? They are going to graduate in just, it's the end of February. Like they're going to be graduating within months. They are in their final semester of college. What the fuck are Blair and Joe doing? We've never, ever heard them talk about a major, what they are majoring in. The closest with Joe is that she's spending all of these fucking overnights at the radio station. We know Joe isn't going to an Ivy League school to be a goddamn disc jockey. So my thing is like, wait, you want to take on a kid when you are about to graduate college? Where are you going after that, Blair and Joe? You planning to stay in Peekskill? Well, we know they do for another year at least, but
Beverly Ann does mention that like,
she does.
What's going to happen when you guys go off. But
no, you're totally right. You're right. But the thing is, and next week we do have finally Joe saying, yeah, I got to start looking at these books and figuring out what my major's going to be. And it's like, really, girl? Didn't think you needed to do that about 2 years ago? No?
Well, we know whatever Blair's majoring in, it needed a gym credit her senior year.
Oh, my God. Yeah. And whatever Joe is majoring in, it didn't occupy enough of her time that she couldn't take a fucking ballroom dance class.
Yeah. Who are the Anderson twins?
Horny Andy strikes again when he when they're trying to get out of him. Why are you stealing from us? The sitcom lying, and even Mackenzie Aston, who was better at it than the others, it's still pretty painful. Yeah. He says, there's a kid at school. Yeah. And he's bullying me. And he has a video of me and the Anderson twins. Of what? You fucking twins? What?
Right.
What would you be doing with the Anderson? Assuming they're girls, maybe maybe.
Well, I Googled the Anderson twins, and the only thing that comes up is a pair of male twins that are jazz saxophone players, but they weren't born until like the late 80s. So it's not, I don't know who the Anderson twins are.
Well, it's like when Fonzie used to say, I'm getting together with the Spicoli sisters. The idea that it's that thing of I'm such a stud that sisters want to fuck me simultaneously. You know what I mean? That's what it is. And, clearly it's Andy telling a tall tale, but had to be colored with horny Andy, making it about a 13-year-old having sex with twins. They're nothing, never not funny. So, show Bible bad. The thing you talked about earlier, this retcon. We need to once again state for the record, Your Honor, Andy has always referred to his parents. In the past, they have said, I need to call your parents. And I get it where foster parents, sometimes you do refer to them as your parents because they are for all intents and purposes. What happened to the grandmother? What happened to the sister? We know they mentioned a sister picking up the phone and listening in on the other line. I think that was when he had a crush on Tootie and got embarrassed and then wouldn't return the calls. So, yeah. And then to add to this, complete disappearance of the grandmother, the conversion of his parents into foster parents, and the absence of the sister, he also says, I've been in 4 foster homes in the last 6 years. Has he?
Well, he dropped it like it's something we've always known. My foster parents are splitting up. Like, back up. Foster parents? Like, yeah. let alone the splitting up part. Foster parents, and nobody like even bats an eyelash at him saying that. So the fact that he dropped it like we were always supposed to have always known that he had foster parents again, nobody at the table read was like, foster parents?
What?
I'm adopted? Like Andy found out he was adopted this weekend, but he wasn't adopted. He's an orphan. Mm-hmm. Oh my God.
And remember, his grandmother told a story of when he was a toddler. Remember? She said the story about him. I told you not to play in the dirt. And he came inside covered in mud. So I told you not to play in the dirt because I didn't. I was playing in the mud. But she was like, I think it was like when he was 4 or something when she remembers that story. So it's like, well, we know the grandmother's in the picture, but she's too busy with her figurines. She can't raise her grandkid where her children have failed. Yeah. Because we don't know what happened to the parents other than what we've been saying. Yeah. Died in Edna's Edibles fire.
You'd think he might have mentioned being shipped around to 4 different foster homes, all in Peekskill, obviously.
Yeah. And his
in the
parents
past 4
dying
years.
when the place burned down. Might have mentioned that, but Now, show Bible good. Natalie does mention about her being adopted, at which point Beverly Ann is like, oh my God, that's right. I forgot.
Yeah. So did the writers, apparently. Maybe that was the thing at the writers' table where Natalie was like, my character is adopted. Maybe we might have had a different bond between Andy and Natalie if that had all been his story since the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
But since it's all new material, I guess. Okay, again.
Yeah. And then Beverly Ann is like, that's right. How did your mother and you deal with whatever kind of a thing? How did your mother, what? And Natalie, of course, aside from saying, well, I was an infant. And when you adopt a baby, it's like being a regular parent where you got a baby for the first time and you figure it out as you go along, just like every other human being on the planet. You just didn't have the extra little time together of carrying the baby.
Well, and we're to assume it is the next day after she's told Andy. They've had a very sweet scene where she's like, I'm gonna call and adopt you.
Mm-hmm.
And the next day, and Andy's being a dick, and she goes, does it get any easier? It's literally the next day, Beverly Ann.
Yeah, him being a little brat.
Does it get any easier? No. And to answer your question, no, it does not get any easier. But Jesus Christ, does it get any easier? And she's like, I was going to go to the Dolly Museum in New York. If you've seen one melted watch, you've seen them all. And she indicates to her wrist, she's not wearing a watch. I just have so many, and maybe it's because I'm just cranky, but I have so many issues with this episode. I can't even begin.
Well, let's add another one to the pile then, Matthew.
Please.
When Jo announces that she is now the editor of the college yearbook, Beverly Ann says, oh, I still have my college yearbook somewhere.
I know. Jesus Christ. What the fuck did you pack and bring?
What did you pack and bring? But no, Beverly Ann, where the fuck did you go to college that you don't have I'm aware some women go to college, like secretarial college, and then when they get married, they stop working to be a housewife, to be a homemaker, to be a parent full time. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. But okay, so when your husband Frank left you and devastated you, Beverly Ann, what did you study that you might have maybe gone back to? That might have been the work, as opposed to driving cross country and maybe or maybe not taking over the partnership of your sister's store. We don't really know what the financial arrangement is.
It's a lot.
Yeah. Oh, and if Blair works really hard, Matthew, she will get to appear with Jay Johnson and Bob the next time he plays Langley. The next time he comes back around on his world tour and gets to Langley. You're graduating, Blair.
Yeah.
You are fucking graduating. The assumption on the part of most people is you will not still be in the town from where you graduated college, unless you're going to go to grad school. Anyway. Ugh. Mackenzie Aston is wonderful. This is a turd burger of a script.
Yeah.
And the fact that he has to play the drama and then play the brattiness and then play the impending disappointment and stuff, it's asking a lot of him. And I think he really does rise to the occasion.
He's fine. I have zero problem. Well, I have some problem with some of the choices made, like that stupid boxes bit at the beginning, the boxes falling.
Yeah.
Like that. It was just a bad prop, like how the wind blows and they all implode from the inside, like watching the boxes like kind of bounce up. Like clearly somebody's under that table, pushing the table up. So that was just poorly executed. But
you can
no,
see
I had my big problem was just the writing of this episode. I mean, you're changing the trajectory of the sitcom, not just of this episode, but of the sitcom, by making Beverly Ann and Andy mother and son with no background, and nobody at the table was like, there's got to be a better. I mean, we didn't feel the need for her to adopt the 4 girls. Why do we feel the need for her to adopt this boy? Like, why can't it just, I had many questions about, like, and mainly it's just why I
will give them this. It gives them more of a reason to always have Andy around, as opposed to him visiting and popping in. And we agree.
Have they run out of reasons in the past 3 years?
I know.
I mean, we just accept it. We're just accepting these 5 grown women are all living in a 2-bedroom house together.
And they've set up a room for him down by the boiler. Okay, what about the room where Monica stayed, where other people have quote unquote stayed when they've been at the house? Remember, Monica comes down. I'm always so relaxed when I'm in the country, because she's not in Manhattan anymore. But it's like back at Eastland, it's like, where the fuck did Cousin Jerry stay? Where are people? This isn't a goddamn hotel. And really, there's nowhere else in this house where he could stay.
Apparently not.
But yeah, we know later in next season that they're going to close the store to renovate it, to create a bedroom for Andy and Pippa. Where the fuck does Pippa stay? I don't even remember. You realize coming into the Pippa, I do not even remember Pippa. That's going to be a new discovery for both of us.
Which is, we should let people know it's been harder and harder to find guest stars, because when we tell people we're in the post Mrs. Garrett seasons, a lot of the people that we asked to be on are like, oh, I no, thank you.
I'm good.
I didn't watch it that far in.
It's true. And 2 things. There's that. And I feel guilty. I don't know whom I dislike enough that I would want to. I want to invite people on the podcast because I like them and enjoy them. I can't subject them to the shit. I can't make them watch this. No. Especially when we have all this history to discuss, because they'd be like, what?
That's the thing. It becomes, and to have new people on at this point in the series, it becomes, every episode becomes, okay, Andy is the boy next door.
I know.
And Beverly Ann is the girl. So we're trying to avoid that as well, we should say. But
he's, Matthew, he's the son of John Aston and Patty Duke.
Who?
Okay, Garen Jones. But no, you're dead on. That's absolutely right.
And it's also, we don't want it to become a weekly podcast of us shitting on the show, for God's sake, because it still is an enjoyable episode to watch. I mean, if you're not dissecting every word that comes out of their mouth and holding the show Bible up every time something happens, it's perfectly enjoyable show. A little 80s sitcom to watch, to drop in on. It's perfectly enjoyable. But it just, when we've been tasked with like watching every episode and watching them make choices that all you can do is just go, what? Then then it sounds like we're just doing nothing but shitting on it. But
no, I agree. I don't like this either. I don't like that we don't like the show more at this stage of the game. But we have got to address.
I think that needs to be the final episode. We need to definitively take a stance on what episode this show jumped that shark. Like, we need to reveal to each other our opinion on when this show jumped the shark. Because I'm still not sure if it's done it yet. but this might be the episode for me.
Oh,
if
I
I'm being
think,
honest.
oh, honey, the shark is so far behind us.
Is it?
Oh my, it is so far behind us.
Because there are still some favorite episodes into season 7
God
and
damn it,
season
you're
8.
right. No, you're right. Because 62 pickup last week was glorious. That made me happy at the core of my soul. And
so, I mean, I'm gonna reserve judgment until we get through every single episode. But anyway.
But let's get into the lore of the production of the show. Is they talked about in the early days they were trying to make Beverly Ann another den mother character like Edna was, and they realized that was not working, and they were trying to make her kooky and flaky, but telling Cloris not to play her too kooky and flaky. And somewhere along the line, they were like, well, we have Andy. The first thing that Cloris did with this show was Facts of Life Down Under, where she and Andy were literally together the entire movie. If that was not parent-child, like if Facts of Life Down Under had run after this episode, I don't think they would have had to change anything other than Andy's uncle. Remember, Andy has an uncle who wanted him to learn about sheep farming.
Yeah.
Forgot about the uncle. Shit. But the idea was this was the honestly to give something to tether Beverly Ann to the store, to the place. Because why couldn't she just jump in her Winnebago and go somewhere else when she says, oh, okay, this is much as I like, selling bongs and dildos from under the counter at the Spencer's Gifts, I may or may not be a co-owner of. So this was to try and further bond the cast and give her more to play. Now, a new mother, a 60-year-old new mother.
Yeah.
So, that honestly, that Andy is being brought in more permanently doesn't bother me. But it's like there's no reason they couldn't have.
And I get it. It gives them another dynamic to play with Andy and Beverly Ann. I get it. But that could have happened without him adopting him. What's wrong with my parents are joining the Peace Corps and moving to Africa? We accepted that was just going to happen.
Sure. So, why not? Why not? But, my dad was transferred to got an amazing job in another city, and I don't want to go. And it could have been, well, let him stay here and then go home for the summers. It's, or have it be, and when we're not looking in on him, his grandmother's down the way, because his grandmother lives a couple of doors down and clearly lives alone. That was the grandmother's house. There was no talk of the parents being there. Okay, we got to stop. We got to stop.
All this is happening. We're writing in a ventriloquist character. Do we want to meet Andy's foster parents? Do we want to cast them? Nah. Let's never meet those people. Who's playing the ventriloquist this week?
Ugh. Yeah. Oh, right. You did. You hit upon it. Rewrite to send in the time machine, Matthew. His father, Jay Johnson, and his mother had a female. We could have had a female thing. And that's when it's like going on the road. Oh, when I said my parents, I meant my dad and, the ventriloquist dummy that he calls his wife. Because, my mom died all those, my mom died in childbirth, and all that. But anyway, so this moment before the commercial, we have the amount of mushy music. That's the word I have for it. When Beverly Ann hits upon I want to adopt him. It is borderline melodrama. The way Beverly Ann says, oh, girls, you're going to be moving on. Andy doesn't need that. Andy needs stability. He needs someone who has time that they can devote to him. They need someone who is like me. Like this light bulb. And then he comes in the room and she says, Andy, I love you and I want to adopt you. And he says, you do? And she says, with all my heart. And the audience, And then to just make sure we punctuate the schmaltz factor, we have a slow pan across the girls, all looking on lovingly and awing as the mushy music plays. And then we go to commercial. And oh my God, I'm like, I'm glad you had your insulin pump on, Matthew. That's all I have to say.
Yeah. It was a very sweet scene.
Oof.
We need to talk about Facts of Life alum, Gene Sincere.
Gene Sincere. You gotta be sincere. You gotta be sincere. Bye Bye Birdie fans. Anybody? Yes. No. She is the one who plays Dorothy Newell, the woman coming in to check on the house, and the trope of, oh, I'm in my best clothes, and Andy, you're in a suit, and be sure you act polite and pretend you want to be here, and oh, we have tea every day, and take him to concerts, and so I'm lying about all this shit to put forth the facade that this will be a good home for him, versus the truth that this will be a good home for him. And it's like, but yeah, Gene Sincere previously played Mrs. Solomon in the ballroom dance episode where Natalie was teaching, I think she called it jazzercise or something, or aerobics or whatever. She was teaching some type of an exercise class for older women of a certain age. And that was Mrs. Solomon. That was season 7, episode 12, which is about a year ago.
Oh my God.
Not a year from when we recorded it, a year prior broadcast wise. Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah. She comes in to the house and Jay Johnson and Bob walk up and she says, "Is this Andy?" Looking at the ventriloquist dummy. And then she says, "No, this is Andy." And thank God, at the very least, they had her pull out and put on some glasses. Like, okay, even how nearsighted are you, lady, that a person walking up with a fucking puppet and you're like, is this the 13-year-old boy that...
And where was Tootie to go? No, it's a ventriloquist doll. Okay, thank you.
At which point the social worker should have said, "And we're done here. Goodbye," and walked out the door. We don't know why Joe is being such a cunt about this yearbook photo. She just has the stuff laid out there. And Blair is like, "Well, that's a very unflattering picture of me." And Joe's like, "Yes, it is." And Blair's like, "Well, you're not going to run that, are you?" "Yes, I am." It's like, what? Why?
Yeah.
It was just unnecessarily mean. If she had said, "Blair, there are 14 other pictures of you, including the one that you submitted and posed for and had retouched. This is just one of 14. I'm not changing now because these are the final proofs going to the printer." You know what I mean? At the very least, she could have had there being some type of a time deadline. And Blair, this isn't that fucking important, you vain bitch.
And you're so organized, Joe. You're just sitting here at a dining room table with all these like pictures and things laid out in front of you. Like, this is, I bet, so perfect for the editor-in-chief of you know exactly what you're doing.
And doesn't Andy come over and fuck with them at one point, like just as a, you know, physical bit to do, like while he's talking, that, you know, the way you'll, you know, shuffle a stack of papers if they're there. Doesn't he kind of pick up some of the pictures and sort of stack them? I feel like at some point Joe should have walked over with, "Don't touch that."
At this point, my eyes had rolled back so far into my head. I
could see your brain. I had rolled my eyes so much I could see my own brain. So then, expressing just another moment of note, Blair expressing how happy she is that Beverly Ann is pursuing this adoption. She has a sock puppet in her hand. We haven't revealed JoJo yet. She has the sock puppet in her hand, and Blair says, "I really don't think I could sleep at night knowing that somewhere out there, our Andy, dear little waif that he is, was standing in line in an orphan asylum, holding up a bowl for porridge. Tomorrow, tomorrow, I love you, in the voice. And the puppet starts singing Annie, not Oliver, not food, glorious food. And how much did they pay for that?
I think just enough to not have to pay for
it. Like Cinderella, Cinderella.
That's
la la la, that's kind of mana. So when she does reveal JoJo, it's not a ventriloquist dummy. It's a hand puppet with an obvious string that she has to pull, that we see her pulling the string to make the mouth move. What if they went to the trouble of making this little puppet? Why didn't they just use an actual ventriloquist dummy? They exist. You can buy pre-made ventriloquist puppets and then doll it up to look like Joe. But and so it's like that's not a ventriloquist thing. Did you think that was weird too?
Of all the things, that was like probably the least thing that I found weird about this episode. So I mean it's, again,
I know, it's just throw your hands up, whatever.
I noticed more that Joe had her hair pulled back in a ponytail for the first time in a long time. Then I noticed that it wasn't a ventriloquist doll.
True. So Mrs. Newell does kind of do this sort of setup, like, well, I'm going to quote the episode here. Perhaps you shouldn't get your hopes up. Truthfully, in a situation like Andy's, where a child has been shuffled around so much, we must make sure that he's provided with the best parenting possible. And then the girls advocate for Beverly Ann. Some of this is cut in syndication, but when they say Beverly Ann's a good person, blah, 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 at one point, one of them says, I think Blair says, she's very capable. She runs the household. She manages the store. Does she? I thought you all shared the chores, and I don't know who the fuck is managing the store anymore. That's been a big question mark for about 3 years now. But anyway, Joe says Andy needs love and a good home, and Beverly Ann can give him both. So Mrs. Newell is just like, well, I'm not sure I'm convinced. And then Andy starts to leave to go out the door. Beverly Ann's like, well, where are you going? And he's like, I'm going out. Well, where? Out. I overheard the conversation. I know the adoption's not going to happen. I heard what the lady said. And Beverly Ann says, I don't give a flying fig what she said. You've been getting away with murder, and whether or not I get to adopt you, it's time you learn to be responsible. Now get back up those stairs and do your homework. And Andy pauses and says, yes, ma'am. At which point Mrs. Newell says, wow.
Now I think you can be a parent. Now
Holy
I do.
Fuck balls. That was amazing.
Yeah.
I now have a lot of good things to put in this report. It's probably going to happen now. Mrs. Stickle, bravo. And
until now, I thought this was just completely awful. But now that I seem to be a bitch to him, oh, this has convinced me.
Or, as we call it, discipline.
Yeah.
But it's and then her exit line, a flying fig, and then she walks out the door. That actually gets a laugh from the audience because they're so fucking desperate for anything, even in the neighborhood of funny. It's like a flying fig. It's like, why didn't she just say a flying fuck? So then at the end, somebody says, probably Andy says, Beverly Ann, you were terrific. And she's like, I was, wasn't I? And he hugs her and he says, it's really going to happen this time. And as she hugs Andy, she says, well, what do you know? I'm going to be a mother. Mushy music. Aww, from the audience. And we fade to a commercial as we dab the tears from our eyes.
But there's no like episode coming up where like the adoption becomes official or anything like that. Are we just to assume like it happened and now they are mother and son from now on?
Yeah, next week this is my son. Oh yeah, fuck yeah. I'm not sure if he's calling her mom at that point, but oh yeah, because next week is when Frank, the ex-husband, comes back. So
Okay.
yeah, I think she calls him her son. We'll see when we get there. But oh yeah, this we were already prepared for the awfulness of having to so dramatically change the backstory of a character with Andy. We were already prepared that was going to be terrible, but I forgot what a shell of crap this turd burger was packaged in. Oh my God.
I really want to know like how the story meeting went. Like nobody in the room was like, Andy's foster what? Like Andy found out he was adopted this episode.
Yeah.
How did Mackenzie deal with that at the table read? Was he like, wait, I'm adopted? Wait, what? Yeah. I've been on this show for 5 years. Wait, what? Okay. All right. Next week we find out Tootie isn't black. Okay.
No. Oh, Lord of Goshen. Yeah, it's like they could have had my mom and dad have to go back into witness protection because the Peekskill drug lords found out their secret identity. You know, the ones that sent Edna out of town to the, I'm making air quotes, Peace Corps. Yeah. I'm not sure what else was at their disposal, but to play up that, not just that they're his foster parents, and oh yeah, we've known that a long time, but to have it be that he lived in an orphanage or a youth home.
Yeah.
And now he would be sent back. Foster parents.
And he's been through 4 in the past 5 years. Like, okay.
Wow.
So then his parents gave him up for adoption 5 years ago? Like they took an 8-year-old to the, okay.
But again, where is the sister? Where is the grandmother? Where is the uncle? Where are these other people that are allegedly relatives of his? But it was pretty awful. And that's why we didn't have a guest this week. Dear listeners, you certainly can see why. Next week, we're going to be discussing season 8, episode 20, called X Marks the Spot. This is where we meet Frank Stickle, played by the wonderful Dick Van Patten. And the link to that episode is going to be in the show notes and on this episode's webpage. And that wraps up another week, doesn't it, my darling?
Oh, it does, in more ways than one.
Anyway, we hope you enjoyed last week's episode, and we hope our joy and enjoyment of watching 62 pick up and getting to talk to Diana Eden again. We hope that was enough to carry you through 2 weeks, because we can't bring you nothing this week. We got nothing. So on that note, we thank you for listening and look forward to having you back next week. And remember,
the fact, sorry. I would say the facts of life are all about you, but the facts of life can be changed at any whim of a writer. So
the facts of life are always changing. They are our alternate facts.
Hopefully we've given you the good, and now we're giving you the bad. We've warned you about this since the very beginning.
True.
With the theme song, you take the good, you take the bad. We didn't know how bad it was going to get. I guess we forgot.
I said it was going to be a slog, and Matthew, I think we haven't seen the worst of it yet.
Oh no, we have not yet. No.
Season 9. Oh wow. I guess instead of the facts of life are all about you, we're just going to say hunker down.
Yeah, exactly.
And goodbye. We love you. Mwah.
Let's Face the Facts was created, produced, written, hosted, and edited by the wonderful David Almeida. Our theme song was beautifully arranged and recorded by Ned Wilkinson. Please visit FaceTheFactsPod.com for supplemental photos and videos, links to social media, and ways that you can support the show. And don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. This is Matthew Arder saying tune in again next week for another thrilling episode of Let's Face the Facts.